Good morning, Brew Daily show. I'm Neal Freyman.
And I'm Toby Howell.
Today, humanoid robots ran a half marathon in China. They're already taking our jobs. They're going to take our hobbies too.
Then Hollywood studio execs are freaking out over a deal Ryan Coogler cut for his new movie Sinners. It's Monday, April 21st. Let's ride.
Big news out of Vatican City this morning. Pope Francis has died at age 88, one day after Easter Sunday. The first pope in history from Latin America, he was Argentinian. Francis was known for bucking his predecessors' more rigid views by taking progressive stances for the Catholic Church, like advocating for the world's marginalized and poorest people, criticizing capitalism and climate change, and calling nuclear weapons and the death penalty immoral. Francis had not been in good health this year, coming off a lengthy hospital stay for pneumonia, but he had been making several public appearances in recent weeks, including meeting Vice President J.D. Vance yesterday. So, Toby, I saw Conclave, but what happens next?
No, seriously, Conclave does a pretty good job of explaining what happens. All cardinals under the age of 80 gather in the Vatican to begin the process of choosing a new pope in about 2 weeks. Just like in the movies, the cardinals vote in the Sistine Chapel and are kept under tight lockdown during the whole conclave with minimal outside news. They need a majority of 2/3 to elect a new pope, so the voting can often take several rounds. Each time an unsuccessful vote takes place, they burn the ballots and kind of cause black smoke to pour from the Sistine Chapel's chimney. But once a new pope is elected and accepts, the world finds out when the paper ballots are burned with a special chemical that makes white smoke pour from the chapel's chimney, indicating that a new religious leader has been chosen. So it could be very soon after the conclave is convened, or it could take a while, but it will likely be faster than the longest papal conclave in history, which lasted 2 years and 9 months from November 1268 to September 1271, which they eventually settled when the townspeople locked the cardinals and reduced their food rations until they finally did elect a pope. So hopefully it won't come to that, but that's generally the process that the Catholic Church is about to follow.
In the heavy metal world of credit cards, there is a new rock star in town. On Friday, regulators gave their blessing to Capital One's $35 billion acquisition of Discover, clearing the final hurdle for the formation of the new biggest credit card company in the United States. The acquisition was announced last year and was under regulatory review. Now, company leaders say they expect to complete the merger early next year. This completely changes the credit card landscape. With Discover, Capital One will add a payment network to its arsenal. So not only will it issue credit cards like banks such as JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Citi, but it will also present a new major challenger to the companies that dominate the infrastructure for processing transactions: Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. Meanwhile, adding Discover will give it a war chest to go up market. Capital One currently focuses on subprime customers, those with lower credit scores, but adding Discover will give it an extra $1.2 billion in annual revenue to go after higher income customers who want things like airport lounges and fancy perks to come with their credit cards. Toby, this is Capital One joining the big leagues, and its rivals are on notice.
Yeah, it's really looking forward to unlocking at least $1.2 billion in additional revenue for Capital One, because historically they've had to rely on different, networks like Visa and MasterCard to kind of facilitate these transactions. And so when you can cut out that middleman, you have more control over the prices that merchants are charged each time a consumer swipes a card. So it just adds in a little bit of extra cost savings. And you're right, when you have that little war chest now, you can start doing things like upgrading your airport lounges, which has historically been very important to a lot of credit card holders. And you do start to compete at that higher echelon of credit card owners, the Amexes of the world, the Chase Sapphire Preferreds of the world, or Reserves of the world. So it does look like Capital One is saying, hey, this is where the money is. We've historically catered to this group of people. Now we want to go up market. It reminds me even of like Spirit Airlines, who typically catered to a budget customer. They're now offering, additional premium seatings in the fronts of their planes. So I feel like a similar sort of rebrand is happening for Capital One, and this merger kind of sets the groundwork for all of that.
Yeah, so Capital One has really dominated the market for subprime, those customers who are in the credit range of around 600. They've had this amazing data operation that finds an arbitrage opportunity where others have not. Their stock has increased 13% each year since it went public in 1994. That's far better than most credit card companies, besides Amex, which gets this premium because they cater to more wealthy customers. But the problem is these people who are Capital One customers are improving their credit scores, and they're looking for other options. Capital One says it has 42 million subprime customers who have improved their credit card enough to qualify for better products and pricing. And once they do qualify for those better products, they are looking elsewhere beyond Capital One. They're looking to JP Morgan. They are looking to American Express. So Capital One thinks by adding Discover, by adding a payments network, by adding more customers there, unlocking all of this revenue, they can spend on airport lounges and other perks. I mean, American Express is everywhere. It gives all of these perks. You can go to a sporting event and skip the line. You can go to JFK or LaGuardia and get into a really fancy lounge. Capital One thinks that by improving those capabilities, it can keep those customers with it over the course of their credit building journey.
And then the final aspect is that this deal definitely encourages, the financial services industry who, when Trump was elected, thought they'd see an uptick in mergers and acquisitions. So this deal, everyone was kind of waited with bated breath, seeing how it would transpire, would it actually be approved or not. So this is maybe one of those signs of a thawing M&A industry, especially when it comes to, big financial services tie-ups like Discover and Capital One. This next story is for all you runners out there. You ever been in a race and been passed by someone and thought to yourself, holy moly, they're a machine. How are they running like that? Well, at a half marathon in China over the weekend, struggling runners were literally being passed by machines as 21 humanoid robot models towed the line alongside their human counterparts. Organizers billed the race as a chance for domestic robotics labs to show off their progress, especially as China races for technological supremacy over the U.S. So there was a lot at stake for the assembled group of fitness-inclined bipedal humanoids. And like humans, some robots had solid races while others not so much. The star of the show was Tiancong Ultra, a 5'9" 115-pound machine that donned an orange tank top for its 13.1-mile romp. 3 people ran alongside it to help control its halting progress. Despite 1 fall and 3 battery changes, it managed to navigate the curvy and hilly course to finish in 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 42 seconds. Not exactly a Boston Marathon qualifying time, or close to the first men's finisher who finished in just 62 minutes, but good enough to win the robot race, especially on a day when only 2 of the original 21 finished under the 3.5-hour time limit. Still, it was surreal. It was a surreal sight on social media this weekend to see these robots outside a factory line or a controlled research setting and amongst real people actually running a race. And a perfect metaphor too, Neal, for the geopolitical robotics race that is also happening between the US and China.
Totally. Watching these robots, I saw myself in them. I mean, very few got past the finish line. There was another one that crashed into a wall and broke up. Most of them needed a battery recharge, which certainly reminded me of, needing some water along the way, running 13 miles. But you're right, this was a showcase for China's robotics industry. The government has made a huge push to invest in this sector. They want to be the world leader by 2027. And to a T, all of these executives that were interviewed who made the robots were saying, this is, we want to make robots that can replicate humans. This is our goal. That's why we're building a humanoid robot. What's a better test of what a human can do than run a race? And they called out the West saying, I don't see anybody over there doing anything remotely close to this. So they kind of boasted about their prowess, even if, the fastest one finished in 2 hours and 40 minutes, it's still finished, and they just think this is a sign of big things to come, not necessarily in the running world, but more to build up their industrial base.
Yeah, I mean, maybe running is not even the right term for some of the stuff that these robots were doing. I mean, Tiancong, who won the race, at some points needed a helper to run alongside it with their hands hovering around its back and neck in case it fell over. A lot of them were run with people holding leashes to make sure that they don't crash. But still, running a course out in the real world is different than, these controlled demos that we've seen a lot out of, companies like Tesla, out of Boston Dynamics when they do their crazy obstacle course stuff like that. And it was funny to see just the vast array of robots that were tried out there. One of my favorites was Little Rascal N2, which was 4 feet tall, 66 pounds. And it ran kind of like a child, and it just was very funny seeing this 4-foot thing kind of motor along. Another one had propeller, so they didn't all go as planned. That being said, some AI and robotics experts were saying this isn't actually as impressive as China was kind of framing this to be. The technology for learning how to run doesn't require any AI breakthrough. This has been around for, 5 years at this point. So basically what this was more of a hardware endurance example, showing that the joints can withstand, 2 hours plus of pounding, because, nearly 3 hours is a lot of pounding. Like, I've run marathons before. It hurts your joints, hurts your knees. So maybe it wasn't as big of like the brains of the robot, but it was maybe the brawn of the robot that was on display here.
Yeah, maybe it was more like a motorsport, like designing a F1 vehicle for these robots to run instead of like a road race. It was more of a motor race. But certainly this rivalry is heating up, and the companies in the West are pursuing robotics. I mean, Tesla, Elon Musk says that his Optimus robot will be a $10 trillion unit one day as part of Tesla. They've completely reframed their company in that regard. Meta started a new team under its Reality Labs division earlier this year to produce humanoid robots. NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, the CEO, said at his keynote speech at CES this January, just a few months ago, that the ChatGPT moment for general robotics is just around the corner. Amazon, Apple, Google are also making humanoid robots. Jensen says that they're going to come to factories near you within a few years. So this is the next frontier. This is possibly the next frontier in this tech rivalry between U.S. and China.
Well, someone finally did it. Sinners, the Jim Crow-era drama thriller survival horror mashup written and directed by Ryan Coogler, starring Michael B. Jordan as twin bootleggers turned juke joint owners battling river dancing vampires, finally kicked the Minecraft movie out of the top spot at the box office. Audiences are digging it, with the movie bringing in over $45 million at the North American box office this past weekend, the biggest debut for an original film since Jordan Peele's Us in 2019. And critics really love it. It currently has a 98% Rotten Tomatoes rating from 223 critics, which, when you combine that with its audience rating, means it's tied with The Godfather on the site. But here's the issue. Sinners has to be not just a success, but a smashing one. One, because it costs a lot, around $150 million to make and market. And two, Warner Bros. Struck a very unique deal with Ryan Coogler. The Black Panther director not only secured final cut approval and first dollar participation, which lets them start earning money even before the studio makes a profit, but he also negotiated a deal which 25 years after release reverts all ownership rights back to him. That has the industry shaking in its boots. If directors start demanding rights reversions, the very model of building and owning a film library, which spits off revenue through licensing and distributing to other channels like pay-per-view, the bedrock and money-making machine that powers Hollywood could crumble. So Neal, great movie. People love it. Critics love it. But the question studio execs are asking if the success it's having right now is worth shaking the foundations of the Hollywood studio model.
It is a very exclusive club that Coogler is joining in getting this rights reversion deal. It's in only his 5th movie. I mean, there are very few directors who have managed to negotiate this with studios, and the reason they have been able to do that is A, they're god-tier directors, and B, that they took very extreme risks to make the movie and often self-finance it. So this club is very few. Mel Gibson owns The Passion of the Christ. Richard Linklater has partial ownership of Boyhood, which he filmed in stops and starts over 11 years. And then Quentin Tarantino is getting ownership back of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in a couple of decades, which was attributed to a deal that he signed with Miramax before it went to studio that it did. So this is a very small club. Coogler is a amazing director, but he's only directed 5 films now. So that's what studio execs were saying. They're like, wow, if Coogler is going around demanding rights reversions from the studios that he's pitching these movies to, what does it mean for the entire industry? We're already reeling from the collapse of theaters post-pandemic. What does it mean for us?
Right, and the thing that it means is that maybe your library won't be as valuable as it was. Libraries are the main reason why studios have the valuations that they do, because that allows the films to have long-term value rather than just their box office receipts, because, you know, they make it to video or to DVD, they make it to pay-per-view, they make it to stuff that, you know, people watch after it leaves the theaters. And so if you build up that library over time, that makes your company valuable. But if suddenly 25 years down the line, those movies leave that library, then suddenly your whole foundation for how you are valued, how you make money is shaken. So that's why people are saying, wow, this is shaking the very foundations of the industry itself. A lot of people have also called out too, like, why are we establishing this crazy narrative around Sinners 2? Ben Stiller literally tweeted last night that because a lot of headlines came out like, oh, Sinners did well at the box office, but it needs to make this amount of money to, you know, turn a profit. And Ben Stiller was like, in what universe does a $60 million opening for an original studio movie warrant this headline? People are saying it's being covered very unfairly when it comes to, you know, the grand scope of the movie industry. But it does have like this interesting through line of this deal that Coogler struck that is having some studio execs shaking in their boots.
Last week, I mean, we talked about the fact that original films were unable to break through. There was a ton more flops than successes. And then here we have a major success from certainly not any IP that anyone had heard of, because there was no IP behind it. And it has this massive opening, the best for an original film in many years. So overall, a massive success for Sinners, for Coogler, who I would love to, meet up with his negotiating team.
Up next, it's our winners of the weekend. Welcome to our winners of the weekend, where Neal and I picked 2 stories from Saturday and Sunday that had a better weekend than the people of New York City, who had their first 80-degree day in months. Neal, I won the pre-show typing contest. Mavis Beacon really coming in clutch. So I'm up first. And my winner of the weekend is Home Depot, because springtime means it's money-making time. While your first thought when it comes to Home Depot is that kitchen renovation you've been putting off, the real moneymaker for the DIY store isn't 2x4s. It's petunias. Home Depot's garden department makes more money for the business than appliances, lumber, or paint. The $20 billion it pulls in annually is more than the entirety of Hermes's revenue, because more people need begonias than Birkins. So how does Home Depot prepare for the rush of people wanting to try out their green thumbs come springtime? With an event known as the Spring Trials. A Wall Street Journal reporter recently visited this all-important event in an industrial warehouse behind an office park and described the magic of the private gardening event, where breeders, growers, and buyers all mingle to figure out which shapes and smells the garden department will be filled in the coming years. Right now, you're in the present, Jennifer McCormish, one of Home Depot's head of live goods, told the Journal. But when you walk through those doors, it's the future. The goal is to find plants that are hardy enough to withstand different climates and easy enough to care for, that first-timers become repeat customers after they tasted some gardening success. The event has also become all the more important as higher interest rates and housing costs have lower demand for expensive renovations. So, Neal, what does the future look like? It's bright, flowery, and Home Depot hopes it smells like money.
This is an incredibly remarkable and sophisticated operation. Home Depot sends a team to Paris Fashion Week each year to keep up with the latest color trends. They're planting all of these gardens, 25 trial gardens in 9 climate zones across the United States, to test different genetic varieties of these particular plants. Then they sift from 800 down to 40 to 50 that they eventually put in their stores for you to see. Some of these gardens, actually, in fact, most of them, you don't know where they are because they're protected like a high security prison behind cornfields, because this is truly a huge moneymaker for Home Depot. They can't give away any of their secrets. And you're right, the ultimate goal, as we heard from Home Depot leaders every single time, was that they need to turn one-time customers into repeat customers. So they need to make particular variations to the genetic makeup of these plants so that people like you and I can't kill them as easily as we would.
So what's coming down the pipeline, though? There's a couple to keep an eye out for. One plant variety is Amor petunias. They're named Amor because every bloom has a pattern that looks like a heart on it. Apparently, it's going to be a big Mother's Day hit, so remember that, people. And then ficuses, too. They've typically been on the out recently because they shed, the leaves fall off, but a new one with better foliage retention called the Klingon ficus is coming to a Home Depot near you. There's also a basil plant with greater leaf surface area to produce better pesto. And then the star of the show, people were crowding around this one. This was the Super Cal all-weather petunia. Its heat tolerance makes it suitable for every single part of the U.S. climate. So one person looking at it said, this thing is a unicorn. So those are a couple of the plant varieties that you should keep in the back of your mind next time you want to test out your green thumb.
My winner is the wall, because this novel piece of arena design is giving the Los Angeles Clippers a major home court advantage as the NBA playoffs get going. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, the wall is a key feature of the $2 billion Intuit Dome, a new stadium the Clippers began playing in this year. It's the brainchild of owner Steve Ballmer, who had the idea to create an uninterrupted section of seats, 51 rows deep, ultra steep, behind one of the baskets that can only be occupied by diehard Clippers fans. The goal was to throw opposing shooters off their game by stuffing all of the craziest fans on the wall who would provide distractions. And it has worked to a degree few thought possible. According to an analysis by Sportico, visiting teams made just 73.5% of their foul shots when shooting against the wall this season, compared to 76.1% they made at the other end of the floor. That 73% would have ranked last for any arena in the NBA. And the advantage goes beyond foul shots. Road teams made 32.9% of their three-pointers while facing the wall, compared to the league average of 36%. We'll see if this home court advantage comes through in the playoffs. The Clippers will host Game 3 of their series versus the Denver Nuggets Thursday night.
One person who is very happy to see these stats is Clippers owner Steve Ballmer, who put $2 billion into this new arena. And the whole arena is geared around making it a very hostile place for opposing teams. And the way you do that is by keeping, these crazy fans in their seats at all times throughout the game. So there's other aspects where there's a lot of easy commerce that you can do right from your seat. You don't have to wait in long concessions lines. There's also a ton of restrooms, so you can get up, quickly find an empty toilet, get back to your seat before the action starts. They have clocks around the arena telling people how long it will be until the action starts up again. And the whole environment is geared towards really like a European soccer style environment, which it actually was inspired by Borussia Dortmund has this thing called the Wall, where all their diehard fans sit behind the opposing goal as well. So I love that, he put his money where his mouth is. He's seeing some results now with the free throw percentage, but we'll see if it's actually an enduring mode or if it's more just a one-season aberration.
Yeah, here's the problem. The team they're facing, the Nuggets, actually has the best home court advantage of any team in the NBA, and Denver teams do have the best home court advantage across sports because they're up a mile high, and it's very hard for opposing teams to come acclimated with that elevation, and the Clippers already lost game 1. They're playing game 2 tonight, so they may go back home to the Wall at an 0-2 deficit because the one team that has a better home court advantage is the team that they're playing. It's Monday, so here's what you need to know about the week ahead. Top finance leaders from around the world will gather in post-peak Cherry Blossom, Washington, D.C. for the IMF and World Bank spring meetings, a major summit to discuss the most pressing global economic issues. Of course, the trade war and negotiations on deals to lower tariffs will take center stage, including in the IMF's closely watched World Economic Outlook forecast released tomorrow. The IMF said it will slash its own growth forecast due to the trade war, previewing notable markdowns but not a recession.
Yeah, usually when all these economists gather for something like the IMF, they talk policy coordination, things like climate change, inflation, but now this year, the one topic of conversation will be tariffs. Also, a lot of focus will be on one man in particular, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is kind of the lead negotiator for the Trump administration when it comes to tariff deals. So whose support also for the IMF in general and the World Bank is a little bit of a question mark. So a lot of uncertainty. They say economics has earned the moniker of the dismal science. So I think it's kind of living up to that moniker right now.
Can you believe that this is the first time we said tariffs in the show?
I know.
All the way down here.
That is a new record. Mark the time stamp right now.
If you don't know how to read a financial statement, time to brush up, because this week has more than 120 earnings on tap. In the Magnificent Seven, Tesla and Alphabet will drop their Q1 performance. Corporate America stalwarts Boeing, AT&T, Procter & Gamble, and Pepsi are also on the docket, plus Chipotle, Southwest, and American Airlines. Investors will be listening to how execs see the trade war impacting their businesses.
I'm excited for Chipotle as well, because springtime typically means it's burrito season. You guys think that springtime is marked by pollen. I think it's met by increased foot traffic, buying more burritos from Chipotle.
The Boston Marathon, the world's oldest modern marathon, is happening later this morning in picture-perfect weather. But the runners might have to dodge a few war reenactors along the way, because this weekend Boston held major celebrations marking the 250th anniversary of the start of the Revolutionary War. Friday was the 250th anniversary of the ride of Paul Revere, while the next day people stage a reenactment of the battles of Lexington and Concord, which started the war back in 1775. Toby, more impressive, running the Boston Marathon or Paul Revere's 16-mile midnight ride?
I mean, it's the horse that we should be giving kudos to. But if you are a Boston Marathon fan and you're looking for someone to root for, look no further than American Connor Mance. He just set the half marathon U.S. record, so he's in good form right now. In the last 41 years, only one American has won the Boston Marathon. So if you want to root for someone, put your energy behind Connor Mance.
I think if there's a year for it to do, it's the 250th anniversary of the start of the Revolutionary War. So let's go, Connor. In team sports, the big event this week is the NFL Draft beginning on Thursday in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Tennessee Titans are on the clock with the first pick. And while we could consult Mel Kiper, here's how Google's Gemini AI thinks the draft will go. The Titans will take Miami QB Cam Ward at number 1. Then the Browns will take Colorado's two-way star Travis Hunter at 2. And the Giants at 3 will take Shadur Sanders, the quarterback from Colorado and the son of the Buffalo's coach Deion Sanders. How did Gemini do?
I don't know. I mean, that sounds actually pretty spot on, but I'm just worried about the fact that Green Bay is hosting the NFL Draft. Last year, 775,000 people descended upon Detroit over multiple days for the NFL Draft. That was an NFL record at the time. Green Bay has 5,000 hotel rooms. If you expand it more to Appleton and some cities a little ways away, it increases. But how can that many people descend on a city this small? I hope Green Bay figures it out, because if not, people are going to be sleeping outside on some chilly Green Bay mornings.
Also in sports, in a way, the world's first sperm race will be held on Friday at the Hollywood Palladium in Los Angeles. This is a real thing. A couple of teenage millionaires have created a startup called Sperm Racing, in which they'll pit representatives from UCLA and USC against each other in a contest meant to raise awareness around male fertility issues. The track is 8 inches long, and sperm typically swim at 5 millimeters per minute. So each race, there will be 3, will take at least 40 minutes. The hosts say there will be play-by-play commentary, instant replays, leaderboards, and betting through Polymarket. According to the Sperm Racing manifesto, it's about turning health into a competition. It's about making male fertility something people actually want to talk about, track, and improve.
I mean, my weird story is I know the guy who founded this. He kind of is a young kid. He used to take meetings with VCs in his bathroom at high school. Like literally, when I talked to him, he was in the stall of his toilet. So definitely like a viral marketer, knows how to generate a lot of headlines. And yeah, they think that this could be as big as Formula One racing or the UFC.
They don't actually think.
Yeah, they don't. Again, it's part of it is just bringing attention. Most of it is bringing attention to this issue. But I mean, hey, they got us talking.
Let's roll the credits. Emily Milliron is our executive producer. Raymond Liu is our producer. Our associate producers are Olivia Graham, who celebrated her birthday this weekend. Happy birthday, Olivia. And Olivia Lake. Uchenna Ogu is our technical director. He's here all week, folks. Scoop Stardaris is on audio. Hair and Makeup has a green thumb for all your gardening needs. Devin Emery is our president, and our show is a production of Morning Brew.
Great show today, Neal. Let's run it back tomorrow.